1, 2. 1, 2, 3, 4. let me know. I will, since it is a very small group, we can do it a little more personable. So what we want to go over today, we're going to start with the 5900 series, which is a discussion system, digital discussion system. Then we're going to move to the wireless, and then we're going to move to MXC. And what we're really doing through here is progressing through the complexity, right? So the 5900 series being the most simple, and MXC being the most in-depth. I was going to say complicated, but I don't want to scare you. So, because it really isn't. Before I get started, do you guys have any experience with the old Danish interpretation systems products? Okay, so one of the things we want to do today is take some of the fear away. In the past, because of the level of complexities of those products and just how confusing they could be, I think Shure has done a really good job with these new products of removing some of that pain. So we'll go through it, and I'll explain as I go. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the DDS 5900 series. So this really is unchanged from the DIS times, but we didn't want to skip over it because there are times where this is going to be the right solution for a room. It's excellent sound quality, really easy to set up, and there is very few components to it, and it does have the option for translation should you need it. So the core components, really, there's only 3 or 4 units here. The beginning unit is the DDS 5900. It's the DIS CCU. We're going to talk about this CCU a couple of times today, both here with 5900 series and with MXC, because the hardware is the same. It just depends on the feature license that you install onto the hardware that changes it. So it's the main power source for discussion units that are connected via DCS LAN, which is our proprietary bus for power, audio, and data. It's an auto mixer for all of the incoming signals from the discussion units, including options for up to 8 different submixes. It's the control unit for all microphones and other audio-related aspects. It's the interface to your external systems like room control, external PA recording devices, and so on. It can run up to a max of 60 delegate units powered off this CCU without the addition of more power. Once you add more power, you can add more units. So you can do up to a maximum of 250 delegate units. It gives you up to 2 channels of interpretation and up to 8 open microphones at once. It does have a web browser interface. Basic setup is possible from the front LCD if you didn't want to use the web-based GUI. Has 4 DCS LAN ports and then 1 TCP/IP port for your network connection to PC, and then 8 configurable analog outputs and 2 analog inputs, one of which can be used for your emergency evacuation message.
What's the difference between the 4 ports and the TCP/IP? We can't hear you. Turn your mic on.
Chris is going to be on you all day. Go ahead. Yeah, press stop.
All right. What's the difference between the 4 A through D ports and the TCP/IP port?
So the A through D ports are DCS LAN, which is our proprietary bus that does power, data, and audio transport, whereas TCP/IP is just your network control. We're going to go over that a little later in the MXC part as to some of those differences, but the big one is the power, right? Because you are running power down those lines. So the core components, you've got your browser-based interface, and this gives you all of your configuration, including assigning seat numbers, operating modes, turning mics on and off, your speaker lists, your request lists. The delegate unit itself is the 5980p. This gives you your touch button technology. We don't, just as a note, we don't have the 5900 series in this room because we are looking at this as the entry level here. And it's an older product. We're more interested today in talking about the wireless and the upgraded MXC products. But it does have a speak request button on the front. It's configurable with an LED as well. You've got a 3.5mm jack with volume control. All your channel selections can be done from the unit. It's got your integrated loudspeaker, and then it's got a DCS LAN in and out so that you can daisy chain your units for power. The 5900 series consists of 2 flush mount units and 1 portable unit. The 5980p portable unit can be set to a chairman, interpreter, or delegate, and it's accomplished via overlays. So those overlays that are shown up there, the chairman and interpreter overlays ship with the 5900 series CCU P, which is the device itself. And those pull off and then get pushed on, and that's what changes your unit from a chairman to an interpreter to a delegate or a delegate with speak. The 5900 series flush mount conference unit is automatically configured as a chairman or delegate, depending on which faceplate and button overlays selected. The button overlays, loudspeaker, and gooseneck microphones are all sold separately. There's 2 faceplate options that can be used with that 5900 series. The faceplate 5921F is the smaller unit there on the left. That's used for speech only. And then the 5981, the wider unit, that can be used for speech and interpretation and channel selection. There's 3 overlays available for each flush mount faceplate that automatically configure the unit to be used as a chairman, a delegate, or a delegate with mute. And those are all the different buttons there. The multiple gooseneck microphones are available, including the new GM 406 mini shotgun, which is the same capsule I'm using here. I love this thing. Part of the reason is I don't like having to do that all day, so it is nice to be able to stay back and the mic still picks me up quite nicely. Something you're going to get tired of hearing today is proprietary DCS LAN cable. These are not network cables. These are not Ethernet cables. These are DCS LAN cables, and it's always a good idea to call them that. These meet specifications that far exceed standard Ethernet, including being shielded from end to end, and they need a bigger gauge wire are the 2 big issues. We sell them in lengths available from 2 feet all the way up to 150 feet. So because of that, we are now saying they are required for these systems, because if you do have an issue and call into Shure and ask for help, the first question is going to be, what cables did you use? If you didn't use ours, swap the cables and call us back. That's going to be the standard
What's the field
answer.
termination option for those?
So if you're going to do field termination, we would recommend female to female only, and then use our patch cables to go to the units. So if you are running, a long install that you've got a pull cable, just go female to female and then use our patch cables. And we're going to go over that a little bit more later as to why. The big thing, though, as I mentioned before, is the power. Particularly in the MXC series, you could be running 300, 350 watts on that wire, right? And if it's not terminated correctly, you're going to be in trouble real quick. So there is a full line of additional accessories available for any applications. These include junction boxes, power inserters, signal repeaters, LAN switchers, audio output units, and redundant power supply controllers. This would be, a redundant controller is going to be for when you've got a system that absolutely cannot fail. You can have 2 power supplies on it. One drops out, the other one will automatically kick in. But for probably 95% of our applications, something like that just isn't required. We also have stereo headphones, interpreter headsets, stereo stethoscope headphones, and ear clip headphones. And we're going to talk about those a little bit later on in the MXC portion, because all of these accessories from the 5900 series do still work with the MXC range, the newer range. So that's a quick look at 5900 series, and here's kind of a standard system diagram. We do have IR transmission as an option as well. And I haven't heard it myself, to be completely honest, but from what I understand, it is better than just about anybody else's out there. And it's more common than you might think once you dive into this world. Any questions on 5900 series before we move on? Nobody? You're good? Okay. Because this thing's a little more fun to talk about, in my opinion. The MXCW is the Microflex Complete Wireless System. You're going to see them in front of you there. It's designed for conference and meeting space, quick and easy setup. And I'm going to take you through this one pretty quick as well here. The problem with MXCW is it's almost too easy, and people don't believe you that you're not doing more behind the scenes than we actually are. So it delivers natural, intelligible sound and adds structure that can make your discussions more focused and productive. And as I mentioned, it's easy to set up, and no computer is required. It's optional, but it's not required. So the 5 key selling points: automatic frequency detection and avoidance, automatic frequency coordination, only 1 access point is needed, uses smart lithium-ion batteries, and it offers AES 128 encryption. These are the main components of the unit. You've got your access point, your network charger, your 640 unit, which is the main delegate unit. It's the wireless ones in front of you here, or options for gooseneck microphones. So let's go over each component. This is the access point here. As I mentioned, it controls up to 125 wireless conference units. It operates in the 5 gig or 2.4 gig frequency bands. We are careful not to use the word Wi-Fi, because while it is the same frequency ranges, we do not operate on the same frequencies as Wi-Fi. It has interference detection and avoidance, 128-bit encryption. The unit itself has 1 analog in and out on the access point. It's got 10 Dante ins and outs. It's got your built-in LCD, which will allow you to do most configuration, particularly if it's for a rental application. You're going to be able to go in, just plug this in, make any changes you need by the LCD, and run your meeting. Has an embedded GUI for advanced configuration, and it all runs off of a single PoE connection. The MXC 640 is the touchscreen conference unit, which currently offers 4 roles: chairman, delegate, listener, and ambient. It is programmable without the computer. The unit provides a loudspeaker for floor mix, and then 2 headphone jacks for volume control and channel selectors. It knows the participant identification using an NFC card. NFC is near-field communication and is the technology that allows data to be read by compatible machines without contact. It does have a micro USB port on the back for emergency power. If you're having a meeting that's running longer than 11 or 12 hours, you could plug in any standard micro USB wall wart, and it's going to trickle charge that battery for us. It does have a 3.5 millimeter TRRS input as well on the back, that in the future is going to allow us to do remote participant, where we'll be able to call in on a cell phone and have them plug in and then take that unit as an open channel. We're waiting on the firmware update on that right now, but it's close. So, also in the range is the network charging station. Accommodates up to 10 batteries, has all your LEDs displayed, temperature controlled. We do have network monitoring available on it for battery number of cycles, life expectancy, total power. You can put these batteries in storage mode using this charger. It'll deplete the battery to about 30% for safe storage and transport. I know TSA is big on shipping batteries, but this puts them in a safe shipping mode. It's an hour and a half to a 50% charge, and then 4 hours to a 100% charge. And the network charger is also wall mountable or rack mountable. The battery itself is 3-cell lithium ion, same cells that are used in the Teslas. We just use 3, and they use, I don't know, 1,500, something like that, per cell. It is included with all the 640s, so you don't need to order batteries additional. We're already running into issues where guys are ordering 10 units and 10 spares, and you don't need that. You're going to end up with batteries lying around for no reason. It does have an integrated status button, so you've got your 5-segment LED to see the life of the battery. You can see that through the bottom of the unit as well. Gooseneck microphone options, there's 2 lengths. You can do 16 or 20 inch, and then they can do single or dual flex. Dual flex would be flexible at the top and the bottom, whereas single flex is just flexible at the bottom. It comes with a standard cardioid polar pattern. It is interchangeable with any Shure Microflex capsule, including the new mini shotgun, which we have on a few of these units. It's got a bicolored LED, which is changeable via the GUI. Rest of world, red means speak. Most American corporations and companies would like green to speak because green means go, and you can change that in the GUI on MXC Wireless. And it's got our CommShield technology built in as well that gives it full RF immunity. So we'll just take a look at a couple of options here. You know, in a standard structured meeting, the customer has a need for a rental or temporary location for a wireless system. They want something quick they can set up that's compatible with their existing systems, and maybe inventory management is a concern. So in this instance, MXCW helps solve the needs by providing the automatic frequency coordination, simple setup and expansion, and quick participant ID with the NFC cards. Something to keep in mind here, one of the things that our friends in Europe really pushed with this is they have the tea lady over there who would come in at 3 o'clock and make tea, quite literally, roll a card in. They wanted a system that's so easy that she can come in and plug this in and start a meeting. And that's really what we ended up here with, is a system that Because you're literally just plugging it in and it's finding a frequency and living on just dynamic frequency selection, it's weather radar, no one's there. We're safe, right? And we're constantly scanning the environment to make sure that we're safe. The rules around DFS, and I think there is a slide coming up on this, I'm jumping ahead, but the rules on DFS is you have to listen to it, and if there's anything within a minute, you have to get off that channel. So because our APT has 2 scanners, we're always listening to the one that we're on for any interference, and we're listening to another one. So if there is any interference on ours, we're going to jump to that clear one. If there's any interference on that one later on down the road, we've already found an escape route to get to another frequency. And when you make that jump, it's imperceptible. You just can't hear it at all because there's a little bit of overlap where we'll stay on both channels for a second or so and then switch. So this gives you an idea here of kind of a standard system setup. You're going to have your access point connected to a PoE network switch. Our computer is going to be on that network for control via the GUI and Dante routing. Maybe take the analog output from the APT into the in-house system or some powered loudspeakers, or have an analog input for a wireless handset, maybe to allow participant questions from a crowd, and you don't want to use an outside PA system. We're just going to use our wireless system for the event. As I mentioned, remote participants coming soon. That's going to give us the ability to call into a meeting by plugging into the back of one of the MXC wireless units. The issue with that is, the only issue with that that's going to come up is now you're going to rely on the far end caller to mute themselves because they will have that mic open the entire time they're on that phone call. Another option.
Was that a BlackBerry in the last slide?
That was a BlackBerry. Can you tell a Canadian made this presentation? That's my key one. That's actually my phone. So I just replaced it last week, but that's all right. Another option too would be for a wireless press feed or an overflow room. You can remove the microphone from one of the 640s, put it in listener mode, and then maybe run a pair of powered speakers or a single powered PA off of the output from the headphone connection. And all we're trying to display here is that this really does allow you to have an all-in-one system without the need to be running any other cables. And it's just for that temporary meeting, you've got the option to do that.
What are the type of application? I've never run across a application that requires a portable discussion system. What
Right.
types of applications does this really? Are you finding this really catches on to with?
The big thing that I'm seeing already quickly is small systems, 20 units or so, 20 to 30 units, where they're doing a corporate boardroom, where they just want to be able to put them out and have a discussion, like a roundtable discussion or a town hall, where you're going to have a main dais with maybe 8 or 10 people. They've each got their own unit, and then they're going to disperse maybe 10 in the crowd. They don't want to have to use an external PA system. They don't want to do sound reinforcement. And this covers everything. And then they can just put it all on a cart and wheel it to another room for a meeting later on that day, fire it up again, right? So where I'm seeing the most immediate impact is those multi-purpose rooms and a rental department or an in-house corporate AV department where they're just doing meetings all the time and they're just running around distributing them in the room, right? My first success with this was at CIBC, the Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce in Toronto. I demoed it for them and they bought 60 right away, right? And it's for all of their corporate meetings where they've got 10 people on the dais and 30 people in the crowd and everyone wants to have the opportunity to talk. Fine, give them the chance.
What were they using for that application before?
MXW, yeah. So, but they didn't have they had to use an external PA system, and now they like this much better. So, and they're a bank. They seem to have money to burn. They're building 2 towers in downtown Toronto right now, planning on putting in 700 910s. So I've been spending a lot of time with them. But okay, so in the web app, you've got your admin view, your chairman view, and then your display only. And these give you, the admin gives you full application access. You can change everything, all of your mic settings, your routing, group mixes, everything else. Chairman view is to run the meeting, and then display only is to just display the results of the meeting. Who's looking to speak, who's waiting to speak, that kind of thing. We already went over the dynamic frequency selection. So I don't know if I mentioned, it is weather radar. And there are rules about how we have to operate on this band. But because we follow the rules so closely, There's very few other companies using this band, so you can almost guarantee we're always going to have open frequency. 2 miles of Toronto Airport, Pearson Airport, which is an incredibly busy airport, and we were still able to find lots of spectrum because they only use 1 weather radar channel and there's 6. So here's the RF channel operating in real time. I can pull up our GUI up here maybe once we get through these slides. And what you can see here is green, red, and orange. Green means wide open, there's nothing else on there, we're good to go. Orange means there's something there, but nothing to worry about. And red is, okay, we're getting a little crowded. We can still live there, right? But we're getting a little crowded. So generally what happens when you fire the APT on, it's going to hop onto 2.4 gigahertz. It's going to live there for the first minute while it's scanning the 5 gig environment. Once it scans up there, once it scans at 5 gig to make sure we're clear, then it'll jump. And then we're going to live there until something happens. So these are all of the components here with your map pricing. So if you guys would like, everybody should have a battery in front of your unit there. You can just slide them in the back and you can get a real-time indication of how long it takes to fire up a system. They remember their state. So if we removed the batteries while they were on, when we pop the batteries back in, they would come back on. If we had turned all the units off and then removed the batteries, when we put them back in, they'll remember that they're off. So because there is only one delegate station, there's just the 640, either via the GUI or via the front control panel, you can change the operation of these units from a delegate to a chairman to a dual delegate to a listener or an ambient. Ambient would just be if, let's say, you're streaming the meeting or someone's listening on a phone call and you don't want them to have dead air where they don't know if they're still connected. You'd leave an ambient mic on so they can hear the room so they know they're still live. Then the listener you're going to use for an overflow room or if you're just having some people in the back who'd like to be able to hear the meeting. So you guys should have me now on the wireless system. And you can hear already I didn't have the difference between the shotgun. So can you hear me okay back there, Chris? Doing okay? You've got to have some questions about MXCW before I move on to MXC. And you could see how long did that take us? A minute? Right? To get the wireless system up and running.
So I assume you can mix MXCW wireless with MXCW in a system? Have some wireless and some permanent?
Yes, you can. You'd have to do the routing through Dante, right? But MXCW, yes, and MXC, yes, you can. Yeah. There is the option to, you'll see there's 2 buttons on the unit. You can select what that left button does, whether it be, I've got, you can, my mic is still open, but then there are other options. You can change that button. You can also pop these buttons off and replace them with a single button. If your corporate clients find that too confusing to have 2 buttons, you can just give them 1 and then turn off that left button functionality. And as we go on, these units have a lot more horsepower in them than what we're using right now. And I think as we continue to develop, we're going to find more and more things to do with these units. Right now, in the last firmware update that we just installed the other day, we've now added voting. So it's not a recorded vote. But if we decided now, I want to have a quick vote, I'd like your opinion on whether or not I should move on. I just hit start the vote here. And now you guys can vote, and I'll get the results here because I'm the chairman. If we were showing the display, it would just come up with a bar graph showing you the results of the vote. So I'm going to stop the vote now, and 66.66% of you voted yes. So there you go.
Does this have any kind of integration with like audience response timer? Because a lot of council chamber applications have a podium where someone from a
Certain
visual
amount of time,
timer,
yeah.
hey, this is how much time you have to speak, and then,
With this system right now, we do not have speech timers.
okay.
MXC does, MXCW does not.
Okay.
So. I think part of that comes down to this. I'm not sure this is really being focused at the permanent installation market, right? This is more the portable rental, quick deployment market. And what I am finding very quickly with this product is because it's so quick and easy and bulletproof to use, that a lot of people are trying to put the wireless in where the wired should be the preferred solution. But because it's easier and faster, right? So you're trying to shoehorn in the functionality of the wired into the wireless world. So, but we're going to get there. So
The looks like there's 2 headphone jacks, one on each side.
Yep.
And there's independent knobs for just that headphone output.
So that is volume control for each side output. So if we were doing interpretation or assisted listening, that would allow either delegate to adjust their volume. If you have a chance, actually, before we leave today, grab a set of headphones from the back and plug it in. It sounds really good. Like even through this speaker, I don't think you grasp how good these microphones are. And then when you put the headphones on, you can really hear the difference. So.
How do you choose between the different mic? It looked like there's about 5 different mic elements.
Right.
Or microphones of
Yep.
different lengths and types.
Yep.
What are the sort of different applications for each?
Well, generally, it all comes down to preference. The shotgun is great, but if you're going to be having people with laptops sitting in front of them, perhaps it's not a great idea, right? I like the shorter version a little better. I just like the look of it, and I like the way this one, when it's up too high, it doesn't really come to my mouth, whereas the shorter one does a little bit better. And it depends on preference. For a dual delegate, you're going to want the dual flex, just so that you can swing it back and forth as the person is talking. But it really just comes down to preference. Yeah, personal preference. That wasn't for me? No. Okay. All right. I was waiting for Chris to tell me he couldn't hear me. Can't hear you back here. So Microflex Complete, or MXC for short. We're going to take you through the whole system here, and I'm going to go through quickly because I don't want this to scare you. Overall, this system, it was built from the DIS range, Danish Interpretation Systems, that Shure bought 7 years ago. This is what that system looked like, let's say, a year ago. In particular, I like the interpreter station. It looks like something from an early 80s Bond film that should be in the basement of a Russian missile silo somewhere. But like this product line is cluttered. It's not particularly pretty, right? And it was scary. And when you see what we've done now, this is the MXC system, okay? Same functionality, improved functionality, much cleaner, much easier to wrap your head around, and a lot less fear. Biggest improvement, we've gone to Shure microphones. These are our mic capsules now. They sound like Shure capsules, and you get that Shure family sound that you expect from a. So these are the key components here, and I'm going to go over them quickly. The central control unit, this is the same CCU as the 5900 series. You just add a feature license that unlocks the capability to run MXC. This can run up to 3,800 participants. It can do 4 channels of interpretation included. It's got a built-in GUI. You've got your 8 analog outputs and 2 analog inputs. On its own, it can power up to approximately 50 units. And new with MXC is redundant cabling, which we're going to go over a little bit later. It does allow you to route these in a loop topology, so that if there is an issue with wire breakage, that you're still going to be. And as I mentioned, it does require feature license 6000. So if you have a 5900 series now, you can add that feature license to it to unlock MXC, and you can switch back and forth between 5900 and MXC on the unit itself. You can select which mode you're going to operate in. So there's 3 main portable units. There's actually 4. The 620 here, the unit you'll see in front of you with no display screen and no voting buttons. It's available in chairman or delegate mode, has an NFC card, allows for dual delegate and interpretation, and it does have braille overlays. There is a 615, which is 1 step below the 620, and the only difference on that unit is it doesn't have the NFC card slot. However, it's $50 difference in price. I'm not sure why anyone would buy the 615 and exclude that functionality for $50. But if your customer wants it, your customer can have it. So the MXC 630 is the next step up, and that has all the same functionality as the 620, but adds on the 5-button voting. And then the 640 has the functionality of all the units below it, but adds a LCD touchscreen display. So generally the way I like to wrap my head around them is the 620 would be essentially a non-voting participant. The 630 is going to be a voting participant, and then the 640 is for the chairman or clerk or someone else who needs to have control of the meeting, right? And that's their interface to get into the meeting. Flush mount units, again, we've got the 620 flush mount, has the same functionality as the 620, it's just flush mountable. And the 630 has the same functionality as the 630 portable unit, but is flush mountable into a desk. And again, that gives you your voting capability, whereas your 620 is for a non-voting participant. Also available is a modular unit that we're calling the MIU. What this MIU does is give you the ability to run, say, to a podium where you've got limited installation space available. So you would mount the MIU unit underneath the podium and then run a lockable HDMI cable up to either the FS, which is the flush-mounted short box, which is the one on the left there, that does not have a loudspeaker, so that would just be for microphone input only, or the FL, which is flush-mounted large, which gives you the speaker capability. And these have your fixed speak and function buttons. Again, it connects to the MIU via an HDMI cable, and then it's got your loudspeaker included on the FL model. With the MXC MIU, with a new firmware that's coming out now, right now you can only use 1 unit per MIU. Once they unlock the capability, they're working on it now to be able to run 2 off of a single MIU unit. The MIU also gives you the ability to have an XLR input into the system if you wanted to bring in, say, a wireless handheld or maybe some background music that you can pipe into the system during breaks. That's an input to the system, an analog input to the system there. The interpretation unit, this is the only ISO 20109 interpreter certified unit on the market right now. I don't know how often you guys run into the Interpreters Union in the US. Big in Europe, big in Canada, and I believe they have infiltrated South America now. I'm not sure how you guys are keeping them out, but they're going to show up eventually. And interpreters, I'm learning, are a breed unto themselves. So they're very Mariah Carey-like. All of them are divas, and they like it the way they like it. And if you don't have it, forget it, I'm not using you. So it's got all your LCD relay and outgoing languages. It's got 8 relay buttons. You familiar with what a relay is? All these things that I'm learning. A relay is when, if I was listening in English and translating to French, and then someone who speaks Spanish doesn't speak English, they're going to listen to my French translation and then translate that into Spanish. That's one relay. There are meetings where you'll be 5 relays deep, where what they're getting has already gone through 5 translators until they've gotten that information, and then they're translating it again. So I'm sure it's like a long line of telephone. I'm not sure what the end result would be, but it happens. And then all the units have integrated braille and audible cues to let them know that buttons have been pushed and which buttons have been pushed. Gooseneck mics, bicolored LEDs, red and green, locking 10-pin connector, and then the comm shield technology. The shotgun is available as well for MXC. Something brand new to this system is the MXC sign. This is a dual-sided name sign. It's 1900 by 460 pixels. It's grayscale only right now, powered via the DCS LAN. Right now, the only way to program it is via either the web-based GUI on the CCU or our Software 6000 package. In the future, it will be programmable via USB. It only consumes power when it's being written. Once it's done, you can remove it from the power, you can completely unplug it, and it's going to keep that sign indefinitely. We already have rental houses that have bought a CCU and signs with no intention of using the MXC product. They just wanted it as a sign programmer. So it's these signs are doing quite well already. It is single or dual participant capable. If you were going to divide this, you could put one name on half the sign and one name on the other half for dual delegate to save space and a little bit of money. And it is tabletop or flush mountable. This trim ring comes off so you can sink it into the table and for a permanent install.
So is this considered like an e-ink display or something different?
Yes, e-paper. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's magnetic. It's like it's a grown-up Etch-a-Sketch is really what it is, right? But you can't shake them to clear them. So I've tried. As I mentioned before, this system uses proprietary DCS LAN. Something that you'll notice we try to do at Shure is we are only referring to this now as DCS LAN. If we're talking about connecting these products, it is a DCS LAN cable. It is not a proprietary Ethernet. It is nothing else. It is DCS LAN, and we need to get that differentiation put in. As I mentioned before, they are available in lengths 2 feet to 150 feet from us. Each cable is tested independently, so we know these cables work. All you have to do is have one pin out incorrect on your cable with this system, and you're going to do damage, or the system just won't function at all. So like we mentioned, as I mentioned before, if you're doing an install and you need to run cable through the wall, then we're going to give you the specifications on the wire, but you're going to terminate female to female and then use our patch cables. Okay.
Is there like a cheap tester that you guys include or that you know is available for testing the pinout before you make your final connections? Like
no.
Okay.
No.
And because he's in the consulting camp, I just want to double highlight, it's one of the things that I got wrong for years. When they're saying build a female-to-female cable, because we always want to put this heavy